All right, so today we are going deep on social learning theory.
Ooh, exciting.
Yeah, we got like a stack of research here.
Yeah.
Articles, studies about college drinking, aggression in girls, even stuff about how businesses use this stuff.
Oh, wow.
So it's a lot.
Yeah, it's really interesting stuff, actually.
I'm excited to pick your brain.
Absolutely.
So to get us started, maybe you could just give us like a quick definition of social learning theory. What is this all about?
Sure. So, at its core, social learning theory, or SLT as it's often called, is really about learning through observation.
So,
It suggests that we don't just learn from our own experiences,
right.
but also by observing the actions and consequences of others.
Makes sense.
It goes beyond that idea of trial and error. We're
Yeah.
constantly picking up information from our social environment.
Interesting. So it's kind of like learning by example.
Precisely. We see someone doing something, we see the outcome, and that shapes our own future behavior.
Right, like, learn from the mistakes of others, but also learn from their successes.
Exactly. And this is where Albert Bandura comes in.
Okay, yeah, he's like the big name in SLT, right?
Exactly. His research really solidified this idea of observational learning and imitation.
Okay, interesting.
So, we're not just passive recipients of information, we actively observe and learn from others.
Okay, now speaking of research, we've got this study here from the American Journal of Criminal Justice, and it's all about binge drinking among college students, so pretty relevant to a lot of folks out there.
Yeah, it's a fascinating study.
Yeah, and they actually use social learning theory to explain why some students end up engaging in that behavior while others don't, which I thought was really interesting.
Yeah, it's a great example of how SLT can be applied to understand real world issues.
Right,
And it really highlights the power of the social environment. So if you're a college student
right.
and you're hanging out with friends who binge drink and see it as kind of a normal part of the social scene,
Yeah.
then you're much more likely to engage in that behavior yourself.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people can probably relate to that. It's that social pressure.
Absolutely. Social pressure is a huge factor.
Right. It's like you don't want to be the odd one out.
And the study actually breaks down that influence into a few key elements.
Okay, let's hear it.
So, first up, we have differential association,
Okay.
which essentially means the company we keep really matters.
Right.
Our behaviors are influenced by the people we spend time with.
Makes sense.
If your close friends are binge drinking, statistically, you're more likely to do so as well.
Yeah, we tend to adopt the behaviors of those around us.
Exactly. So that's differential association.
Okay.
Then we've got differential reinforcement.
Okay, what's that?
This is all about consequences, the good and the bad.
Okay.
So if binge drinking is rewarded socially, maybe you feel more popular or accepted, then you're more likely to keep doing it.
Yeah, makes sense.
But if it leads to negative consequences, like getting in trouble or feeling sick,
Right.
it becomes less appealing.
So it's like our brain is constantly weighing the pros and cons.
Exactly. We're evaluating whether a behavior is worth it based on the potential social rewards or punishments.
Interesting.
And then, of course, we have imitation, which is a pretty straightforward one.
Yeah.
We learn by watching others, especially those we admire or see as role models.
Right, if the cool kids are doing it.
Exactly. So it's not just direct pressure. It's about observing the social landscape.
And seeing what's considered cool or acceptable.
Right. We pick up on those cues.
Interesting. Okay, so we've got differential association, differential reinforcement, and imitation.
Yeah,
Those are three key elements of SLT.
exactly. And then finally, we have definitions.
Okay.
This refers to our own personal attitudes and beliefs about a behavior.
Okay.
So if we believe that binge drinking is acceptable, even desirable, we're more likely to do it.
Right.
But if we see it as risky or harmful, we'll probably avoid it.
That makes sense. It's our own personal lens through which we view these behaviors. So it's really interesting how SLT kind of paints this picture of how our social surroundings can influence our behavior.
Absolutely. It's a powerful framework for understanding those social dynamics.
But it makes me wonder, if we're so influenced by the people around us, what about the influence of media? We're constantly bombarded with messages and images.
That's a great point, and it brings us to a key aspect of SLT, the role of media as a source of models and reinforcement.
Right, like we see so much on TV, online, in movies.
Exactly, and there's this really interesting study by the Pizer Foundation that found that young people in America
Okay.
spend an average of 38 hours a week consuming media.
Wow, 38 hours, that's a lot.
It's a huge amount of exposure.
Yeah.
So it's not just about who we hang out with, it's also about what we're watching and listening to.
Right, so media can be a powerful influence as well.
Absolutely. And it's not just about the quantity, but also the quality of that exposure.
I see.
For example, there's this article, Girls in Physical Aggression, from the journal Aggression and Violent Behavior. And it delves into how media violence can actually contribute to increased aggression in girls.
So it's not just about boys and video games anymore.
Not at all. The research shows that repeated exposure to violence in media, regardless of the source, can desensitize us to it
Right.
and make aggressive behavior seem more acceptable.
Wow, that's pretty concerning.
It really is, and it highlights the importance of being mindful of the media we consume.
Yeah, it's like SLT is showing us this whole web of influence, right? From our friends, family, and even the media.
Absolutely. It highlights the interconnectedness of our social world and how it shapes who we are.
Okay, this has already given me a lot to think about, but before we dive into all the implications, I'm curious, what about businesses? Are they using SLT?
Oh, absolutely. This is where things get really interesting.
Okay, I'm all ears.
So, many companies have caught on to the power of SLT and are actually using these principles
Okay.
to improve their bottom line. Yeah, it's all about creating a work environment where desired behaviors are modeled, rewarded, and ultimately become the norm.
So it's not just about telling employees what to do, it's about creating a culture where those behaviors naturally emerge.
Precisely. It's about shaping behavior through social influence.
That's so interesting.
And it's incredibly effective.
Okay, so tell me more. How are they doing this?
Well, for example, they might showcase high-performing employees as role models,
Okay,
giving others concrete examples to follow.
makes sense.
They might also offer rewards and recognition for teamwork, innovation, or any behavior that contributes to the company's goals.
Right, so they're incentivizing the behaviors they want to see more of.
Exactly. It's all about reinforcement.
It's like they're creating a mini society within the company.
In a way, yeah, they're shaping the entire culture of the organization.
That's fascinating. So it's not just about productivity either, right? You could use it to promote ethical behavior or safety awareness, even diversity and inclusion.
Absolutely. The applications are really broad.
Wow, so it's like this powerful tool that can be used in so many ways, for good or for bad.
That's the thing about knowledge. It can be a double-edged sword.
Right, and that's why it's so important to talk about it, understand it, and use it responsibly.
Exactly. And that's what we're here for today.
Well, this is already blowing my mind, and I'm sure our listeners are glued to their seats as well. But we've got much more to uncover, so stay tuned as we continue our deep dive into social learning theory.
It's kind of wild to think about how businesses use it.
Yeah.
But it does raise some questions,
Yeah.
like about the potential for manipulation.
Right.
If companies can use it to shape employee behavior, couldn't it be used in other ways?
Yeah. That's a little creepy.
Yeah, like maybe in ways we wouldn't think are ethical.
Right.
And
Like, it's one thing to encourage teamwork,
right.
but could it be used to, like, nudge people into doing stuff that isn't really good for them?
Yeah.
That's kind of scary.
Yeah, it raises some big ethical questions. Like,
Yeah.
think about advertising. Advertisers are really good at using social influence.
Yeah.
They make us want stuff we don't need.
Totally. They show us, like, happy people using their product,
Exactly.
and we start to think, oh, if I have that, I'll be happy too.
Right. They create these models that we try to copy.
Yeah, it's like we want to be like them.
Yeah, and it's not just about buying stuff.
Right.
Think about stereotypes or
Okay.
prejudice.
Oh.
If we see images or messages that portray certain groups negatively,
Right.
we might start to believe those things without even realizing it.
So it's like a double-edged sword.
Yeah, exactly. SLT can be used for good,
Right.
but it can also be used in ways that are bad or even manipulative.
Yeah, it's important to be aware of that.
Absolutely. We need to think critically about the messages we see.
Right, not just from our friends,
Right,
but
yeah.
also from the media.
Exactly. We need to be able to recognize when someone is trying to influence us
Right.
and make our own decisions.
It's like we need to develop a healthy sense of skepticism.
Yeah, and critical thinking. Right.
Question everything.
Exactly. Don't just accept everything you see or hear.
We need to make our own choices based on our own values.
Absolutely. We have to be aware of how social learning works.
Right.
So we can use it for good.
Yeah, not let it be used against us.
Exactly.
So, thinking back to that binge drinking study,
Yeah.
it's crazy how they used SLT
Yeah.
to explain something that seems like a personal choice.
Right.
But it really shows how powerful the social context is.
Absolutely. It's not just about willpower.
Right.
It's about all those influences.
Yeah. that
Yep.
shape our decisions.
And that's why interventions based on SLT can be so helpful.
Okay,
Well, if you want to change a behavior,
right,
you can't just focus on the person.
right,
You have to look at the social norms,
Why?
the role models, the
Right.
rewards.
yeah, the whole system.
Exactly. You have to address all of that.
So it's like a public health approach.
Yeah.
You're not just treating the symptoms,
Right.
you're looking at the root causes.
Exactly. And we see this approach being used in a lot of places,
Oh yeah, like where?
like anti-bullying campaigns
Yeah.
or public health initiatives.
Right, like encouraging healthy eating.
Exactly. Or reducing smoking.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it's about understanding how social learning works
Right.
and using it to create positive change.
Yeah, on a bigger scale.
Exactly.
But SLT can't explain everything.
Well, no theory is perfect.
Right.
One criticism of SLT
Yeah.
is that it doesn't fully consider individual differences.
Okay.
People aren't just blank slates.
Right. We all have our own experiences
Exactly, and our own personalities.
and genetics.
Right, so it's not as simple as monkey see, monkey do.
Yeah. There's more to it than just imitation.
Right, and SLT has also been criticized for not fully explaining how we think and reason.
Okay.
So, it's a great framework,
Yeah.
but it's not the whole story.
Right. It's just one piece of the puzzle.
Exactly, human behavior is complex.
Yeah.
But SLT gives us a really valuable tool for understanding how social factors shape our choices.
And that's a powerful thing.
It really is.
So welcome back.
It's crazy how much we've talked about already.
I know, right?
Like from the very beginning of social learning theory
Yeah.
to how it's used in like college drinking and even
It's
businesses.
pretty amazing.
I'm still thinking about how like all this stuff is influencing us
Yeah.
and we don't even realize it.
It's like a hidden world almost.
Yeah, it really makes you look at things differently.
It does.
Like I've been thinking about all those times
Yeah.
when I just went along with the group,
Right.
even if I wasn't really sure about it.
Yeah.
Or those times I bought stuff I didn't need
Oh, yeah.
because of advertising.
Happens to all of us.
Yeah, it's eye-opening.
It is. And the more we learn about SLT,
Yeah,
the more we can make good choices.
right. So it's not about like rejecting
Well,
everything.
you got it all.
It's more about being aware
Exactly.
and choosing our influences.
Yeah, being intentional about it.
So like we choose who we hang out with. Right.
What we watch,
Yeah.
what we listen to.
Exactly. We can create our own learning experiences.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it's empowering.
We're not just like robots.
Right? We have control.
And that brings us to another thing I was thinking about.
Okay.
Like, if we know how behavior spreads,
Yeah.
can we use that for good?
That's a great question. And the answer is yes.
Really? So like on a bigger scale?
Absolutely. Like
Uh,
social change.
Okay, this is exciting.
Yeah. Think about public health campaigns.
Okay.
Like those ads about smoking or healthy eating.
Right.
They use SLT
Oh.
to change what people think is normal.
So like those ads that show people quitting smoking and feeling amazing.
Exactly. They're showing positive role models.
And it works.
It does, because we see those people.
Right.
And we think, hey, maybe I can do that too.
It's like a chain reaction.
Exactly. Positive behavior spreading.
I love that. So we can use SLT
Yeah,
to make the world a better place.
absolutely. That's the power of this theory.
This is blowing my mind.
I know,
Yeah.
it's really cool stuff.
So before we go,
Yeah.
what's like the main takeaway here?
I think SLT is so important
Yeah.
because it shows that we're not alone.
Right. We're all connected.
Exactly. We're all influencing each other.
And that's powerful.
It is. It's a new way of looking at the world.
I totally agree. This has been an incredible deep dive.
It has.
We've learned so much about social learning theory,
Yeah.
from its history to its potential.
It's amazing.
So listeners,
Yeah.
as you go about your day,
Right.
pay attention to those influences around you.
See who you're learning from.
Think about the messages you're absorbing.
And remember, you have the power to choose
That's right. You can shape your own learning.
and make a positive impact.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Absolutely.
Until next time, keep exploring
Keep learning.
and keep those brains buzzing